What if a Harvard-educated neuroscientist and psychiatrist, someone who once locked people up for claiming that they could speak to the dead, suddenly came forward and said, communication beyond death is real? What if I told you that while my own family still ridicules what I do, complete strangers walk away from our sessions in tears, stunned by the details their departed loved ones shared that nobody living could possibly even know? This isn't science fiction. This is happening right now. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what she discovered and why it validates what millions of us have already experienced, but we're too afraid to admit. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here. And after watching this video, you'll never look at death or life the very same way. I'm Dr. Amirah Hall. My near-death experience triggered an extraordinary spiritual awakening, and suddenly I could see non-physical beings and energy blocks in people's bodies that no medical scan could detect. I avoided labels like psychic or evidential medium for years. Society dismisses these gifts as fantasy, and I worked quietly with referred clients, honoring my abilities and shielding myself from judgment. After helping thousands reconnect with their departed loved ones, I can no longer stay silent. Now, something extraordinary has happened. The very gatekeepers who dismissed these experiences for decades are finally breaking their silence. A Harvard-educated doctor has just blown the lid off of everything we've been told about death. Dr. Swart isn't some self-proclaimed guru. She's a neuroscientist, a psychiatrist, one of the bully establishment, and she's now admitting what I've known all along.
It's possible to communicate with someone that's passed away. And I'm saying it from the point of view of being a neuroscientist and a psychiatrist.
For 25 years, I've watched people like us be called crazy and delusional. The tide is finally turning. Dr. Swart claims she's discovered new science about consciousness and afterlife communications, earth-shattering evidence we were never intended to know. Indigenous cultures have understood the continuity of consciousness for thousands of years. Mediums, shaman, and everyday people with spiritual gifts have been facilitating these connections throughout human history. So why do we suddenly need to bow down to this claim just because it comes with academic credentials? Why is it only legitimate when someone with a Harvard degree validates what grandmothers in every culture have known since the beginning of time? Don't get me wrong, I'm really glad she's speaking out, but whoop-de-whoop. Welcome to what the rest of us have been saying and have been ridiculed and medicated and dismissed. Comment below if you can relate, because I know I'm not the only one here. Watching Dr. Tara speak, I feel the conflict in her energy. Her bravery is undeniable. Stepping forward from the medical establishment with these experiences takes tremendous courage. When I look at her energy, I see that she's still healing. She's still caught in the war between her analytical thinking and training and her undeniable experience. I've walked this path myself. I know the sting of ridicule from those people that unless science can prove something, it can't be real. You know, what triggers me most deeply is how these self-appointed authorities humiliate those of us awakening to our greater potential. They've built entire careers dismissing millions of experiences as mental illness or wishful thinking. Dr. Tara is still healing her heart, still searching for peace without her beloved. Like all of us who've suffered loss, she wears that mask of being okay while trying to reconcile her training with her truth. But here's what she's discovering, and what you need to know too. We don't need scientific proof to validate our experiences, and we certainly don't need medication to numb our beautiful unfolding awareness. Dr. Swart's world collapsed when her husband died. As a physician, she thought she understood grief. Then came this experience that medical training couldn't explain.
I was asleep and I heard a noise in the distance, and we had been burgled once, so I went to check it wasn't the alarm in the garages. Couldn't work out what it was, thought maybe it was birds in the distance, went back to sleep. It was about 4 a.m. And then I got woken up by a massive thump to my shoulder. I wouldn't demonstrate it on you because it would be too much for me to hit you that hard. It wasn't like a tap. So I opened my eyes and I could see next to my bed a very vague, hazy version of Robin, as if he was pushing himself through treacle to be seen. And I was just transfixed. And I saw him become more and more clear. I could see the outline of his hair and his face. And then suddenly he just dissolved from the top down and my eyes went like this. And I remember seeing his shins and his feet. And I was like up on my elbow watching and I just gasped out loud.
Think about your own experiences. Maybe you smelled your father's cologne in an empty hallway after he passed. Or maybe your sister's favorite song played 3 times in one day after her funeral. These weren't coincidences or your imagination. These were real connections with your loved ones in the spirit world. Dr. Tara found herself trapped between worlds. Her lived experience versus everything her medical training told her was impossible.
I said to myself, this is the kind of thing that crazy, desperate people do. And within the same breath, it's okay for me to be crazy and desperate right now. I've lost my best friend, my life partner. Like everything I thought about how the world worked has crashed around me.
The conflict wasn't just mental. It manifested physically.
I suddenly was in aches and pains all over my body, was accompanied by me feeling so depressed that I actually had to look in the mirror and go through the criteria for clinical depression and work out if I was actually depressed or not. And I didn't meet all the criteria, but I was in this physical pain. I could not understand why. I went for a massage. It was so painful I didn't go again for a year.
You might recognize this in your own grief journey. The weeks you couldn't get out of bed after losing your mother, the physical chest pain so intense you thought you were going to have your own heart attack after your spouse died. This wasn't just emotional pain. It was something much deeper. The physical anguish isn't simply emotional grief. It's an energetic separation happening on the level most doctors never acknowledge. When someone you love dies, the energy they stored in your body begins pulling away as they make their transition. Simultaneously, pieces of your energy field leave with them. You feel disconnected, not just from them, but from essential parts of yourself. I discovered this through my own loss. When my dear friend and webmaster JR died suddenly, I fell into this very dark depression that I didn't even recognize. Despite understanding and talking to dead loved ones for years, I understood these concepts intellectually, but I had no idea how much of JR's energy was stored deep within me through the spiritual connection that we had. And then one morning, everything changed when I felt mysteriously drawn to visit a church I hadn't been in a long time. I was making my breakfast, and I felt this overwhelming sense, this massive whoosh of energy spiraling out of my heart. It wasn't an instant. I knew it was JR's energy, that he was leaving my space, and I was shocked. So following my intuition, I went to church, where I discovered there was a surprise guest singer, and his initials were J and R. And it just so happened he was playing a guitar and folk music just like my friend JR did. During the service, a minister approached me with a message. And he told me, a silver-haired man with a ponytail and a beard is here. And he says, hello. He loves you and to keep doing what you're doing. And that described JR perfectly. And in that moment, I understood what had happened earlier. That energy was leaving my body as the final separation, and yet an immediate reconnection at a higher level. This same process is happening to you too, whether you recognize it or not, and you're dealing with your grief and the loss of your loved one. The universe speaks to us through those coincidences that are just too meaningful, too perfectly timed to be random. That song on the radio that was your song, the butterfly that follows you on the anniversary of your child's passing, or the repeated number sequences that appear everywhere you look. These aren't your imaginations. They're messages, the proof that your loved one still exists and loves you and still is trying to communicate with you. Your pain isn't imaginary, and neither are these connections. Have you experienced these kinds of moments? Those times when something happens that makes you stop and wonder if that's your loved one reaching out? I'd love to hear your story and your connection with your loved one. Sometimes just sharing these experiences help others realize that we're not alone. These connections often appear in unexpected moments. Another time I was attending one of my neighbor's funeral, and I clearly saw him standing in the front of the sanctuary. In my mind, I heard him say, I love lasagna. And it seemed so random and odd that I just almost kept it to myself. And later I casually mentioned it to his wife, and her face transformed with the most beautiful smile. She said, that's what I'm serving for lunch. She said, that was Ben's absolute favorite. So there's no way I could have known this, but he wanted us to understand he was still present. still aware, and still connected to everything happening around us. So your loved ones are doing the very same for you, sending you signals and messages you might be missing because the grief has blocked your ability to receive them. So have you received a message that seemed so specific that it couldn't be a coincidence? Your experience might be exactly what someone needs to hear to validate their own connection. For medical professionals like Dr. Swart, these experiences threaten their entire worldview.
I was experiencing something called thought insertion, which in psychiatry is one of the symptoms of schizophrenia. It's when you have a thought in your head that you know isn't yours. So I was experiencing that really vividly. But can you imagine experiencing that and at the same time being a psychiatrist that is saying, right, Tara, you do realize you are having like a psychotic symptom?
Perhaps you've questioned your own sanity too. Maybe you heard your husband's voice clearly saying, "I'm okay," weeks after his funeral. Maybe you saw your child standing at the foot of your bed months after the accident. You weren't hallucinating then, and you're not crazy now. My client Mike lost his 8-year-old son in a drowning accident. And for a year, he moved through life like a zombie and was unable to sleep or work. His marriage was disintegrating under the weight of that shared grief they had. During our second session together, we identified why he couldn't feel his son anymore. It wasn't because his son was gone. It was because Mike's grief had created a dense energetic block, preventing the connection. Once we cleared these barriers, everything changed. 3 weeks later, Mike found his son's baseball card in a sealed box, untouched since the funeral. Next day, he smelled his son's shampoo in an empty bathroom. And then came the dreams with specific messages no one else could have possibly known. Mike said to me, "It's like someone's turning the lights back on. I still miss holding him, but I know he's not gone. I can feel him again." His wife noticed the transformation immediately. "You're back," she says. Their marriage healed. Mike returned to work and even began coaching Little League again. This isn't magical thinking or denial. This is what naturally happens when you remove the energetic blockages grief creates. Sarah came to me 3 years after losing her twin sister to cancer. And for those years, she described feeling like half of her was missing. Therapists prescribed medications. Support groups offered tissues and platitudes. Nothing helped. The emptiness truly consumed her. She mentioned that it was like she died too, but her body didn't get the message. Her grief had created such dense energy around her heart that she couldn't feel her sister's presence, though her sister was desperately trying to connect with her. Over several sessions, we cleared these blocks. And 1 month after we started working together, Sarah woke up with her sister's distinctive birthmark that appeared on her own skin just for that day. Medical doctors have no explanation, but Sarah didn't need one. She knew her sister had connected with her. And today, Sarah's leading a foundation in her sister's name. She's happily married and feels whole again. Not because she got over her grief, but because she's restored the connection that was always meant to remain intact. In my opinion, Dr. Tara is still traveling the harder path, trapped in her scientific mindset and searching for proof to satisfy her doctor's brain. You don't need to struggle, as she has. When your mother visits and dreams with messages for your sister, that's real. When your husband's favorite song plays at exactly 3:33 p.m., the time of his death, that's real. When you suddenly think of your grandmother and find a dime, her special sign minutes later, that's real. Your connection isn't broken. It's just been blocked by grief and everything that you've taught to believe about death and separation. Think about how everything changes once you understand death isn't the end of connection. Those 2 a.m. panic attacks about your own mortality, gone. The crushing emptiness when thinking about your loved ones you've lost is transformed. The fear that keeps you from fully living because you're afraid of dying, dissolved. This isn't about denying grief. It's about removing the artificial barriers that make grief so much worse than it needs to be. It's about reclaiming the connection that death appears to sever, but actually transforms. You don't have to wait years for release. Dr. Tara took 4 years to reach this point of awareness and healing, but you don't have to take that long path. You can experience profound relief and reconnection in days, not years. My approach is different from anything you've ever tried. It's not therapy. It's not support groups. It's not medication. It's a powerful method that reconnects you to yourself and to your loved one in an entirely new way. I'd love to hear where you're at in your journey. Have you experienced some synchronicities or messages that you can't explain? Have you felt your loved one's presence? Go ahead and share your experience in the comments below. So if you're tired of the emptiness, if you miss someone so badly, it physically hurts, if you're questioning your own sanity because you've experienced things that you can't explain, you're not alone. And you don't have to suffer like this anymore. I'm offering a free 15-minute clarity call. We'll discuss where you're at, where you want to be, and if we feel like there's a good fit, we can work together, create a plan so that you can heal this pain fast. In this call, I'm going to help identify what's blocking your connection and show you how we can clear these barriers together. This isn't about learning how to live with the pain. It's about transforming it into a new kind of connection. Take the first step. Click the link below to schedule your free clarity call. Your loved ones aren't gone. They're still reaching out to you. And let me help you hear them again. So that's it for today's video. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And remember, your loved ones aren't gone. They're still reaching out to you. Let me help you hear them again. This is the truth they don't want you to know. But now you do. And nothing will ever be the same.